Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. So today, we're going to chat, I guess this is a little bit lore-wise of a video, but also a little bit of hobby-wise for a video as well. Today, we're going to chat about Stormcast Eternals and Stormhost Organisation and Iconography. Now, where this might seem similar is, I guess, we're not really going to want to make this comparison, but we're going to have to for it, is Space Marines. Space Marines, as you know, have this unique iconography that they use to designate different parts within their chapters of Space Marines. And Stormcast have a very similar system of which they use to designate down between the Stormhost to the units within the Stormhost to individual retinues and stuff like that within the Stormhost as well. So today, what I want to talk about is something I don't think that's talked about a lot with Stormcast, is this kind of organisation for them and how it is applied. This can be really cool, especially when you have rather large Stormcast collections, to give your models a unique sort of feel and make them feel like they are painted exactly like they should be from the lore perspective. This doesn't mean you have to copy colour schemes or anything. It actually is quite open to what you do and how you do it, but it does have, and I guess it's a lot less one directional like Space Marines can be, obviously for your primary chapters. Obviously there's a ton of chapters that ignore that in 40k, but for the Stormcast this is a sort of loose idea to start with, and it's divergent from that. So with that said, let's get started and let's talk about what a Stormhost actually is to begin with. So what exactly is a Stormhost? So a Stormhost is the primary fighting force of Stormcast Eternals. A Stormhost can be made up of numerous different chambers of multiples of different ones, one of each. They can range in size greatly. There's no real, I guess, size of what a actual Stormhost can be or has to be. It could be made up of one chamber, it could be made up of 150 different chambers. There's no designation of how many chambers go into a Stormhost. Now, a Stormhost is what people would know as, say, something like the Hammers of Sigmar, the Hallowed Knights, the Astral Templars, or the Anvils of the Heldenhammer. These are Stormhosts. The colour scheme that they are is what's dictated by the Stormhost. A Stormhost has a singular unifying colour scheme across all models, across all its chambers. So for the Hammers of Sigmar, that is obviously that you can see here in the picture that are fighting off some forces of chaos, you can see that they are blue and gold. That is the colours of their Stormhost, and all chambers within their Stormhost wear those colours. As mentioned, Stormhosts are split up into a multitude of different chambers, and there is a number of different chambers, some of which we have yet unexplored, but those we have explored. We currently have the Warrior, Exemplar, Harbinger, Extremis, Vanguard, Auxiliary, and Sacrosanct chambers, all of which have been opened by his Lord Sigmar, now that we can use these models in battle. The Warrior, Exemplar, and Harbinger chambers all contain models in varying different quantities of the original Stormcast release, that be Liberators, Paladins, Prosecutors, etc. The Extremis chamber is the Dracothian Guard and the Stardrakes. The Vanguard Auxiliary is all the scout-like stuff with the Vanguard Hunters, Raptors, Paladors, and the Knight Zephyros. And then the Sacrosanct is all our Wizards and the Artillery, so the Lord Ordinator along with things like the Lord Exorcist, Lord Arcanum, Knight Incantors, Sequitors, etc. So each different Stormhost can contain a number of different chambers. It's not uncommon for a Stormhost to have multiple Warrior chambers or multiple Sacrosanct chambers, etc. And generally these all follow a sort of strict guideline of what they have within these different types of chambers. You can actually go look in your Stormcast Eternal battle tomes and you'll find these chambers have mega battalions, which is a battalion containing a bunch of different other battalions that then make up the chambers. So what then are chambers split up into? So chambers are made up of multiple brotherhoods, and brotherhoods themselves are made up of multiple retinues. Retinues are units of Stormcast, so a unit of Liberators is a retinue of Liberators, a unit of Judicators is a retinue of Judicators. These retinues are then combined into brotherhoods, which themselves are combined into chambers, and the chambers themselves sometimes are combined up into Stormhosts, or sometimes it's a singular chamber that makes up a Stormhost. Now, on top of chambers as well, leading all the brotherhoods and all the retinues is a command structure. So, commanders of the Stormcast are pretty much split up into two different types. You have Lords and Knights. Lords are the overarching leaders, so you will have things like leading your chambers, such as for the Warrior Chamber, Harbinger Chamber, the Extremis Chamber, and others as well, a Lord Celestant will lead them. A Lord Arcanum leads the Sacrosanct Chamber, and a Lord Aquila leads the Vanguard Auxiliary Chamber. They then all have a bunch of knights beneath them. Now, this is sort of only in one case sort of ignored with knights, where you have Drakesworn Templars underneath the Lord Celestant that is leading an Extremis Chamber, but otherwise than that, you have everything with knights under them. Sometimes, though, you will also have lords that stand next to your lord leading the force. So, for instance, with a warrior chamber, you have a Lord Celestant who is then accompanied by Lord Castellans, Lord Relictors, and Lord Veritans. These are sort of secondary commanders, each with their own individual roles. While the Lord Celestant, the Lord Aquila, and the Lord Arcanum are charged with leading their troops, these other lords to the side are there to do different jobs. So, the Castellan is there to ensure, I guess, that things remain in the focus of order and he remains control. The Lord Relictor is a priest of the order, and then you've also got the Lord Veritant who ensures that corruption cannot spread. Each of these has different roles, and there's a bunch of these throughout the different sorts of chambers that all provide different roles. You've got things like Lord Exorcists and Lord Ordinators as well. Knights are the ones beneath. These are like you would almost say your secondary commanders. So generally these are more honoured fighters leading your warriors. So you have things like Knight Vexillers, and other sorts of knights. And you also have Knight Questers, who are somewhat of an anomaly. Knight Questers are characters who go outside the bounds of Stormcast. So they've got this character rank, but they also sort of aren't in charge of anyone else, because if they're a lord, they would have to be in charge. They have that sort of responsibility at lord, where knights don't. So that's how Knight Questers can go apart. But now that we've talked about all of this and all this sort of structure first, let's talk about how exactly the chamber organization is defined with its iconography. So, color-wise, as previously mentioned, a Stormhost provides the primary colors for the Stormcast. This is Hammers of Sigmar with their gold and blue, or Hallowed Knights with their shining silver armor. These primary colors are distinguished features of the Stormhost overarching everything. Now, each different chamber within a Stormcast generally has its own identifying colour, and this is generally noted on either their plumes or crests. So the hair on top of the models. Generally only leaders have this type of thing, but there are different times when certain models might have this as well. Generally this is also used, I guess, as a sort of spot colour throughout the armies as well. So, for instance, you may be a Hammers of Sigmar Stormhost, but your chamber might have, say, bright green as your chamber colour that denotes the chamber. Generally, this chamber colour is also something respective of the Lord Celestant leading them, or the chamber themselves. For instance, if you were to say call your chamber, say, the Stonehearts, they might, for instance, have, say, a dark grey as their colour for their plumage. So, down from that, though, we then have shoulder iconography. So shoulder iconography is something used in the Stormcast to denote their type of, I guess, role within the Stormhost. Now, this is something you might have noticed if you're a Stormcast Eternal player appearing in some rules. I guess the most obvious one here that people sort of seem to know is Redeemer. This is obviously something that is common in a lot of rules where you get buffs for certain Redeemer units. Now, the Comet symbol that you see here, the twin-tailed comet, is the Angelos Conclave's symbol. Angelos can be things like prosecutors. You then have the star noting Justicar units. This is a bunch of your archer units predominantly, so Judicators. Lightning represents Redeemer conclaves, so this is your Liberators and your Sequitors. The moon is your Paladin. Most people probably know what Paladins are. This is your different types of Paladins within the army, so your Retributors, your Decimators, your Protectors, etc. The fire here, and yes, I know it's a weird looking fire, the three sort of pointed diamonds is supposed to be a fire-like symbol. That is Corpuscant, and the most notable one of those are your Evocators, and then you have the cog for the Ordinatus, obviously the Lord Ordinator, and the Celestar Ballista. So each of these sort of dignifies which unit it is, or what type of units a unit is. So it sort of notes their role within the battlefield. You'll notice that units that have similar roles generally have similar sort of symbols and are part of the same different differentiation of Stormcast. And so further down the line, I guess we have tabards and buckles, and this is really we get into the nitty-gritty sort of stuff of differentiating your different retinues. Now, generally within each chamber's conclaves can be found a number of different retinues. Each individual retinue within the chamber is identified by the trim around their tabard. Although, there can be up to 3 retinues with the same trim colour. When this is the case, each of those is further distinguished by a colour of their belt buckle, say be bronze, silver or gold. Now, what this means is, say you take a warrior chamber, and then parts of that are made up of particular different bits and pieces of different units. So you have multiple Thunderhead Brotherhoods, which is 3 units of Liberator in each one. So you would have 3 different units of Liberators, all with a blue trimmed tabard, but each one of them would have a different colour belt buckle differentiating them. So you would have that repeated with 3 different colours, each with a different belt buckle to help differentiate each unit of Liberators within that particular formation. And that's all there is to it. I guess it takes a little bit to get your head around. You can find this in your different Stormcast Eternal Battle Tome, but it's just an interesting sort of subject. When I was painting up my bunches of Liberators, I was really looking into this to see how I can make them work as units, and I've done this for a multitude of different units across my army. I think it's really nice, and it helps, especially in a narrative play sense, to give your units identification and really build up that story for each one of them. I'd love to hear from all of you what different Stormhosts you're painting up and what different chambers you've got painted up. It'd be really interesting to hear what everyone's been doing, and I'd love to hear a little bit of your own lore behind your different chamber. I hope this can help sort of give you some ways to identify the different units within your force and really create some strong narrative for them. Well, we hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also, while you're at it, why don't you come join our Discord server? You can chat to me and other members of our fine little community here at Cineful Gaming. You can do so by following the link to our Discord server, which is in the description of the video. Lastly, I'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel financially via Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you to our Patreon supporters Christian Weir, James Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Alder and Shot First, James Crowder, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, Tim Newman and The Rising Ape. And thank you to our YouTube members Green Roots Gaming and Fire Titan. Thank you all for supporting the channel, and if you'd like to help support the channel like these fine people do, you can do so by clicking one of the links down to either our Patreon or our YouTube members in the description of the video as well. Thank you all for watching, everyone, though. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.